Hello, my name is Michael Jacobs, and I have spent the last 15 years in the hospitality business. Most recently, an offshoot, as I consider the hospitality business, the fitness business. I've been president and chief financial officer of Crunch here in New York City for the past 2 years, completing my assignment there in 2009, December. Prior to that, I was chief operating officer of Be Our Guest Restaurants in New York City, which was a large multi-concept operator of various restaurants across the country. And then lastly, before that, chief operating officer of a division of Affiliated Computer Services, which is a technology outsourcing company based out of Dallas, Texas. I consider myself an expert in the restaurant business. Primarily, I spent about 10 to 12 years in the restaurant business with Be Our Guest. They were the operators of well-known concepts throughout the country, primarily Dos Caminos, which is a fast-growing Mexican concept that we had. Wildwood Barbecue, it's another one. Blue Water Grill has been a Zagat, highly rated restaurant for probably the past 15 to 20 years, and a continued growth company for the restaurant space. I'd say the biggest accomplishment at Be Our Guest was to take relatively small operating restaurant business in an industry that didn't focus highly on technology and really leverage the technology experience I gained at ACS and use technology years before it was fashionable in that industry to mine data, to integrate the systems, both reservation systems, back office, and use everything that was in our power to both maintain cost better than you really could without those systems, and more importantly, make sure that the guest experience was where it needed to be, which is really what keeps people coming back in that business. And over the years, we built a tremendous technology platform that was really the highlight of the interest in the company from a sale perspective. That led to our sale to Starwood Capital. In terms of Crunch, it was a fantastic brand that had kind of lost its way a bit, and I think really what I was able to do there as well was to bring a technology integration to that business to help focus the business on the data that they have, a significant amount of data to use to continue the business. In addition, it went through some challenging times in terms of trying to restructure itself, and ultimately I was able to successfully lead it through a Chapter 11 filing and end up without any debt upon exit, and a much better restructured company that is poised for growth from this point forward. Be Our Guest started with 6 locations when I started, and they had built those 6 locations over 15 years. And in the ensuing 10 years, we went from 6 to 20. At one point, we had also started a hotel business called The James. So we migrated from just the restaurant business to the hotel business as well, and had a James Hotel in Scottsdale and Chicago as well. I've got a great technology background. I've got a good understanding of HR and the legal aspects of the business, very involved in operations, and especially in the restaurant business, so that chief operating officer or a president's role is typically what suits me well at this point, because I've got such varied and wide experience, and not just really the finance background, which certainly serves me well, but I think it's become the point where my abilities go far beyond just that realm. And really, certainly at Crunch, where I excelled is focusing on everything behind the scenes and making really the operations work, from operations to technology to finance to human resources, and really being responsible, again, in a chief operating officer or president role as a partner to the CEO. I think my skill set is very well suited to an emerging concept, and someone who's just got a phenomenal idea and is focused on building the business, and quite honestly has not focused at all on how do they maintain the business behind the scenes. My blend of skills suit that very well, so that the entrepreneur can focus on what they need to and be out in the public face, and not have to worry about if we can add 3 more locations or two locations, or however their growth plan is. How are we going to handle that from behind the scenes, whether it's, again, technology, finance and accounting, people, resources, etc. And I found that I'm able to take all of that burden off really an entrepreneur who wants to go at a pace that entrepreneurs typically move forward at. In addition, from the standpoint of a concept that's kind of over that first phase, and they've set a set number of locations in place, what I have found is they still haven't paid attention to how do we manage the business. They're just so focused on growth, and at some point it comes back to haunt them. And I think really what I've been able to do is, again, let the entrepreneur focus on the continued growth, so that we could take a 10-unit chain to a 100-unit chain, and a $10 million business to a $100 million business, and let the entrepreneur continue to focus on the things that they're great at, and leave all the rest to someone who really has the experience to build the team and the infrastructure to handle however quickly the growth may need to be to satisfy the market. I've worked for a number of entrepreneurs. I've worked for companies that were recently acquired by private equity companies or large public companies, and I certainly understand the dynamic that occurs in trying to integrate really a great growing company that maybe have been founded by an entrepreneur into a much more formalized structure from a reporting standpoint, from an understanding of how the politics of the organization needs to work, and translate that back to the entrepreneurs and really the original people who make the business go, so that they can understand the marriage of the two is really something that will make the business further successful. But it's different. It's not necessarily the environment that it used to be, and there are definitely some learning curves to get through in order to really make that partnership work very, very well. And I've been through that a number of times at this point in my career. I've lived in the New York metropolitan area my entire life. I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I've spent time both living in New Jersey and New York City as well. Currently living in Westfield, New Jersey. I've got a wife and a 10-year-old daughter that very much enjoy the area and have wanted to remain here as long as that we certainly can. In terms of outside interests, I'm a technology nut, certainly someone who loves the latest gadget and spends a lot of time kind of keeping up on the technology. And music actually is a passion of mine. I've played music my whole life and have a studio in my own home, and have always spent time writing and recording and just being involved in music when I'm not running a million miles an hour in the business world, and as well trying to squeeze in the golf game now and again.